First, I'd like to make a statement. I'd like to say most of us here are asking how decisions made today will affect generations to come, not how they affect the bottom line. I don't happen to own the mineral rights on my property. My home was sold to me without the mineral rights. If something goes wrong with my water, what recourse do I have? Could you tell me who I go to for that?
Yeah, you come to us. Odnr has within the statutes, within our regulatory authority, first methods to prevent that from occurring. It does happen. It did happen in Plain Township, as the one gentleman said about 10, 11 years ago. It might have been a little bit longer than that, but it did happen in Plain Township. If you're the person impacted, it's a catastrophe. Fortunately, it rarely happens. But if it does happen, Ohio law says that the company must replace your water supply. And then we get into a negotiation, and the negotiation can be a public water supply, it can be another water well of equivalent quality and quantity, or other, as the homeowner and the state would agree. So we have an authority. Under that authority, we would order, if indeed the water supply was adversely impacted, a replacement of that supply.
Okay. You acknowledge that there's 36,000 old abandoned wells in Ohio. Many of these wells are located in eastern Ohio. Some aren't on a map. They don't know if they've been plugged. They're so old. Could these be conduits for methane gas, for other things from the fracking?
Actually, we didn't acknowledge that. Whoever put that yellow paper together did. There, as it was mentioned up here earlier, there's been about 270,000 wells drilled in the state of Ohio. Our division was created in 1965, so many of those were before regulation. Typically, where the old wells exist is in northwest Ohio, because northwest Ohio, around Findlay, Hancock, Lima counties, or Lima, Hancock counties, the Trenton limestone was drilled about 1890, 1900, and so that's where probably 75,000 wells were drilled at that time. Many of those were plugged, many of them haven't been plugged. Very little unknown wells in eastern Ohio. Certainly there are some. However, eastern Ohio, most of the townships in eastern Ohio are considered coal-bearing, and the coal laws went into effect a long time ago requiring location and mapping of wells. Of course, it was done, 100 years ago. The maps, the surveyors, probably practices have changed, but generally speaking, most of those wells have been located. Not that I don't see some every year that we didn't know about there. Probably most importantly is the state has an orphan well program, which I administrate. Senate Bill 165 restored the funding to that. Before, we didn't have the money to deal with some emergencies. Now I have $300,000 to spend between now and the end of June. Then next year it'll be approximately $700,000 or $800,000. We do have a backlog of wells to be plugged. So that orphan well program, as wells are identified and are problems, it plugs those wells. If there was a new well drilled that would perhaps through a drilling process or something cause an old well to activate through a conduit or something like that, that operator would be responsible for plugging that old well because their activity created that problem.